Dene and and just to let you know, this is being recorded and will be on YouTube later on, probably sometime next week. So by that, I'll go ahead and let Dene and Suzann take this over, and thank you for attending.
Thank you, Lisa and AARP. Dene and I both appreciate you and AARP for inviting us. So as Dene brings up our PowerPoint, I will introduce myself and then I'll let Dene introduce herself. We are both from the Better Business Bureau, Great West and Pacific. We have 8 states in our service area. It's a pretty big area. We're actually the largest BBB in the United States now, which is kind of a cool thing. And so at this point, I'll let Dene introduce herself quickly, then I'll finish introducing myself and then we'll get started.
Great. Thanks, Suzann. Yes,
You're
we
welcome.
love partnering with the AARP, especially on consumer education. My name is Dene Joubert. I'm coming to you from up in the Hayden Lake Coeur d'Alene area. I'm the investigations manager for the BBB Great West and Pacific. And my team, we investigate bad business practices happening in the state of Idaho, as well as scams that are affecting Idahoans. And so we are excited to be here today to talk about timeshares.
Yeah, so I'm Suzann Bacon-Taylor. I'm Communications and Public Relations Manager. I'm actually in Denver, Colorado. So I'm a little ways from Dene, but since we're in 8 states, we're a little spread out all over the place. What I do at the BBB is to really just help tell our story of our customers, to tell the story of scams and frauds and good and bad businesses out there in our communication in our communities, and to educate as much as we possibly can, which is why we're here today. So we'll move on. We have a really cool video for everyone, and we're going to start out with actually buying the timeshare real quick.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. Did you have a nice weekend?
I did. I mean, it's just the same old yard work, hanging out with the dogs. How was your weekend?
It was good. Just did some sports activities and things with the kids, and
Yeah?
you know, actually, I got a timeshare, which was really neat.
Oh, cool. Where?
It was actually at the base of Everest. I was actually just driving home.
Wait, you're serious?
Yeah, I talked to this guy. His name was Nick.
So I know timeshares aren't a scam, but Everest seems a little excessive.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'll have to show you some pictures here.
Okay.
So I know it's not Hawaii, and I get that it's not Disneyland. 36-hour flight to get there, plus I gotta drive. But that timeshare was only $5,000 to get to Mount Everest base camp. Super excited, great deal. Plus, the family's totally gonna dig it.
And there you have timeshares. Do you really think we would talk about timeshares and not come and do some actual research? I mean, somebody else is paying the bill, right?
My friend here will take the check, though.
So here's the deal. If you're thinking about the free offer, whether it's a meal or the promise of cash or some free gift, you're going to pay with your time, and your time will be spent in most likely a high-pressure sales pitch to buy into a timeshare.
Folks, I'm glad you're back because we forgot to mention timeshare condos are still deeded properties.
Step number 1, never buy at the sales pitch. Always sleep on the decision. It's a big one. So after you walk away from the sales pitch to make the decision, take that time to read the contracts and know exactly what you're buying into. Where's the property? Hey, am I gonna go to this beautiful place that takes 10 hours by airplane 2 or 3 times a year to actually use the timeshare? How much vacation can this money buy you if you just put it away in the bank every year? And how long are you in this contract? Timeshare contracts are lengthy. So take the time to look at all of that and really think about, is this something you want to sink your money into, and realize the ongoing costs that are associated with these timeshares. There's a reason you see and hear so many commercials for how to get out of your timeshare. That one on our next video from paradise. Be safe.
Oh, love
Well,
that video.
Instead of the next video, you have us to
Yeah.
talk about how
Sure.
to get out of your
Yeah.
timeshare.
Yeah, no next video. So to talk about that just a little bit, we'll spend just a little bit of time about how those timeshare salespeople really try to get you into that emotional state, right? And so what they call that is ether. And ether is a heightened emotional state that makes it hard to think clearly and to make rational decisions. And we all know once you get into those rooms, and I was just telling Dene earlier, well, I did have one timeshare pitch when I was in Vegas a few years ago with Wyndham. And, you know, I told them no, but yet I still had to go through a couple different people and they just weren't taking no for an answer, right? So what they want to do, these salespeople, is they really want to get you under that ether, that emotional state. And Rocky, the con artist trainer, says ether is a condition that a master closer puts a prospect in by hitting their fear, greed, and urgency buttons. I would tell prospects I wanted to keep the victim up in the altitude of the ether in that emotional state, because once they drop into the valley of logic, I've lost them, right? They don't want you to be logical. So think about the first time you fell in love, right? You're not thinking logically when you were in love. I mean, just nothing made sense, right? You weren't thinking clearly. And so what they do to induce that ether is they look for ways to move you out of that logical thought and into the emotional reaction, right? So this is totally emotional. For instance, they might ask you about your relationship with your family, past vacations. They move towards, well, hey, you know you want this timeshare, right? Look at these pictures of you and your family together. Look at how much fun you're going to have. You know you want this timeshare. Look at these amazing vacations and all these different places that you can go. They just really get you under the ether, and that's those triggers that they pull, right? Maybe it's, other things that they talk about to get you under the ether, whatever that trigger is for you to pull you into that emotional state. Scarcity, now that we're on our next slide, that's also part of that. And I know a lot of us know this, but it happens day in and day out, right? You hear this on TV, you hear this everywhere. It's like limited offer, scarcity, creating that false sense of urgency by claiming limited supply. There's only 2 timeshares left. You got to buy them now. The price is going to go up. You got to buy it now. If the offer sounds too good to be true, I mean, there's a reason why everyone says that, right? It probably is too good to be true. And they want to keep you under that ether, that emotional state, right? And so they're going to continue to do that. And it's interesting, when I was looking on, when I was doing research for that scarcity piece, it's just a really common tactic for all salespeople. It's like lock the price in while you can. It's on high demand, and they just, pre-funding your vacations for the rest of your life, and just really that high pressure to get you to buy things. I see it constantly all day long. I know we all do. All right. So whenever you get approached with an offer that is only available for a limited time, this is just our tips in the beginning, so you don't buy timeshares. And yeah, anyways, there are very few legitimate offers out there that can't wait for you to do some due diligence and make a rational decision. And I always say the good rule of thumb is to wait 3 to 5 days before making a final decision. And your budget might thank you too, right? Yeah, because you don't want to be stuck in this timeshare for 10, 20 years, something that you're not even going to use, right? Yeah, so, all right. So that's enough about that. We're going to move over onto so you already have a timeshare, and maybe you've really enjoyed that, and that's okay. Awesome, great news. So why would you want to sell that timeshare, right? Maybe the maintenance fees are increasing, which they're always increasing. So that's never going to stop. You've lost your job. Maybe you're thinking about retiring, or you're already retired. You don't use it at all. And we've heard that a lot. There's no interest anymore. Maybe you don't want to go to wherever your timeshare is located anymore. Too far away to travel. You want to travel to other places. You don't want to be stuck in this one timeshare that you have to always go to, right? Never able to book time when I want to go because you're sharing it, right? Required to book far in advance to get prime time. Can't afford the loan payment, obviously. That's speaks for itself. Physically cannot use it anymore, right? And Dene will talk about this later, but children don't want to inherit it. So those are several reasons why you may want to sell.
And so when you're going to sell that timeshare, unfortunately, there is some bad news. Although that sales presentation promised you that this is the investment of a lifetime, there actually is very little resale value in your timeshare. The amount of money that you paid to buy this timeshare, there's no return of actual financial investment on that. Now, obviously, there was family memories, and that's priceless, and the times that you had and the vacation. But as far as it's not like a house where it appreciates in value. The other bad news is if you still have a loan or mortgage obligation on your timeshare, in order to sell it easily, you will have to pay off that loan or mortgage obligation. And we have some ideas for you on how to do that. You might be in one of those non-cancelable lifetime contracts. So what do you do in that situation? And you also are seeing these annual assessments increasing every year, which is possibly causing some financial strain on your budget. And we know that those increase every year, and there's not a lot that timeshare owners can do about it. So before I get into the ideas on how to sell it in the right way, I want to just take a moment to talk about the timeshare scam and how it works. And so scammers know that there is a high need out there for people to get rid of their timeshares, and there's not very many wonderful ways to get rid of it. And so this is where the scammers are going to get you into the ether and they want to play on your emotions. And so what they do is they go on to the assessment records, the black market, they figure out where you own your timeshare. They know your unit number. They know you're the owner. They know the property where you own your timeshare. And you're going to get a call or maybe an email from a company or person pretending to maybe be an attorney or a real estate agent or a buyer. And they're going to know everything about your timeshare and ask you if they can either buy your timeshare for possibly even more than you paid for it, but a really good deal. Or maybe they're going to propose that they rent it for maybe a wedding or a party or a bachelor party kind of thing. And they're going to offer you top dollar. And this just sounds awesome. You know, finally, the deal, it's coming through. Now, once you agree to sell it to them or rent it to them, they're going to send you an agreement. They're going to tell you that they're going to be working with an escrow company. That escrow company will have a website. It will possibly even have a business registration in a state. Even this timeshare company that wants to buy your timeshare is even going to be registered with a state because they know how to do that. The one thing they do not know how to do is get a competency license. And a competency license is getting an actual escrow license with the state or a real estate license with the state. So those are things that you can check with the Division of Finance or the Division of Real Estate to find out if this person who's called you actually has a license. They may claim, oh, no license is needed. I'm here in Mexico. You know, this is an international transaction. And that is not true because usually the escrow company will have a US address or this timeshare resale company will have a US address. They're going to tell you that there's upfront fees that you need to put into this escrow account. They're going to tell you, you need to pay the taxes, you have to pay the closing fees, you have to pay what's called a notario fee or a filing fee. They're going to come up with all kinds of different ways to express that. And they're going to want you to wire these fees into this escrow account or directly into a Bank of Mexico. There's one particular Bank of Mexico that they seem to love. And the problem is once you wire that money, it's gone. There's no way to track it. You're not dealing with a reputable escrow group where your money is actually being held in trust under US law. And after you send that money, they're going to try and get more money, of course, until you catch on to the fact that nothing's happening with the sale of your timeshare. And unfortunately, you find out there's no buyer or renter and you can't get your money back. So we really want you to avoid those situations. And so how do I avoid getting involved in a timeshare scam? Well, you really, like I say, need to check out that reseller by looking at their competency licensing, talking with the BBB, talking with the state attorney general's office or the Division of Finance or the real estate authority, asking about their fees. Are they charging me upfront fees? That should be a huge red flag to you. Like I said, verify that company and the competency license. These scammers, they're pretty good. They'll get BBB accreditation sometimes. They will get a registration with the state. They're pretty slick. And all of us try and catch them. And the moment we do, we give them F ratings, we kick them off. But they're, it's trying to keep one step ahead of these organized crime groups, right? So make sure that you're really thinking about it. Get everything in writing and look really closely at those agreements they send you, because scammers aren't the greatest at spell check and grammar and an agreement actually making sense. Sometimes they forget to white out the old name and it'll be talking about one escrow company and then it talks about another. And ask how they're going to advertise and promote your unit and get it sold. That's really important. What is their strategy? If anyone tells you that it's proprietary and they're not going to tell you exactly how they're going to sell your timeshare or get rid of your timeshare, that should also be a red flag, because a company that you're dealing with should be transparent about either the real estate process if you're going that route or the exit process if you're going that route. All right. Suzanne, I can't see whose slide's what, but I'm just going to keep talking until you tell me it's your turn.
Yeah, it's
All
your
right.
slide.
It's my slide. Okay, so how can I get rid of my timeshare? What are my options? The first option is to do a deed back program to the timeshare company. Because of these timeshare exit companies coming to the forefront these last several years, and timeshare companies not wanting to work with them, they have established, some of them have established now their own deed back programs. And so it's always worth just at least talking to your timeshare company, seeing if they have a deed back program, what would they offer you if you did deed it back. So at least you have that in your back pocket, because that might be the simplest way for you to get rid of your timeshare. Usually you're getting pennies on the dollar, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, it could be the simplest, easiest, painless route you have going for you. And sometimes that is worth it all, right? So check that out. The next option is maybe you have a mortgage. And that mortgage is going to prevent you from selling your timeshare, unfortunately. So maybe we need to contact the lender and see if we have any options. Can we refinance that loan? Maybe do we need to switch that loan into a home equity loan? Do we need to make some other arrangements? So be aware of your mortgage and what possibly your options are in that regard. Do I need to switch this into a personal loan? You want to kind of see what your options are with interest rates and what you can afford. One of the best ways to possibly sell it, especially if you're like in a Disney property or a Worldmark property, something where there is a little bit more interest than other properties, you may want to hire a licensed realtor specializing in timeshares. Now, this does not mean going to your neighbor or that realtor you've used for years for your own home, because traditional realtors often don't know anything about selling timeshares and some of the special details that go along with it. So it's really important to hire someone that has done thousands of these transactions. They should know their stuff. They, and you want to especially pick a good one, though. Don't pick one that's going to take advantage of you. Another option is to sell it online. There are some websites out there. One of them is Red Week. They have open forums. They have kind of their own marketplace where you can list your timeshare. Some of those companies offer full service where they actually will help you sell the timeshare. So it's not just you listing it on your own. They'll actually provide kind of a realtor title closing service along with it. This is also a really good way to go if your timeshare has some value and it's another place where you can actually research the value of your timeshare. I'll look at that. Your next option is to consult a licensed attorney specializing in contract law. Maybe you're in a situation where you are in a lifetime contract. You're not sure how you're going to be able to break that contract. You may need to be consulting with an attorney to help you understand your rights within that contract and help you negotiate directly with that timeshare company to release you from that contract. Your other option is negotiating with your timeshare company. Maybe they don't have a deed back program, but they're willing to negotiate with you directly a way to get it out of your timeshare because of some kind of hardship. And, talking about the options that way. So options to avoid. There's lots of options. The exit teams. So some of the problems that we've seen with these, at first we were all excited about them, right? Because they were disrupting the timeshare industry. There was no other way to go. But some of these will charge very high upfront fees. And that is not the way to go if you don't have to pay those fees. They might give you advice to participate in illegal or unethical strategies. Maybe they're going to tell you to stop paying your maintenance fees, stop paying your mortgage. That might put you in a situation where now you have collection agencies after you. You might have to file bankruptcy. If you can avoid going into debt in that situation, I would highly recommend avoiding it. Also, what's happened is these timeshare companies are now refusing to work with these exit teams and they're suing them in court. And it's making it impossible for these exit teams to really represent you. And so that's the reason why you want to have that conversation with these exit companies to find out what is their strategy? What can they really do? It shouldn't be proprietary. They should be fully transparent on the work that they're going to do on your behalf. And they should be giving you updates constantly on what they're doing. And I wouldn't even pay them until they started doing work for me and I'm seeing the value of their work. The other option is you'll see charity. Donate your timeshare to charity. Well, I'm here to say that charity probably doesn't want it. They're usually running on minimal staff, and that development director trying to figure out how to sell that timeshare to get the value to give it back to the charity that they're fundraising for. It's going to be this headache that we're sitting here and telling you about. Also, there was a situation too where the appraiser would come out and give you this high value for your timeshare and what it's worth. And so you're like, woo, I get to write that off on my taxes. Well, the IRS is like, not so fast. You're not going to get that high value on your taxes as a write-off. We're actually going to make you pay back taxes because we know that timeshare is only worth XYZ. And then here you are having to pay back taxes to the IRS because the appraiser gave you too high of a value for your timeshare. So I would avoid that if all possible. The other option is stopping payments. Like I talked about, that's some of these exit team strategies. It will affect your credit. You'll go into foreclosure. You're going to have collection agencies calling you. You're going to be harassed. That can cause a lot of stress and health problems for people. And as we all know, stress can cause cancer and other health-related diseases. And I just think it's not worth it. I would fully avoid that option if possible. The next strategy that you're going to see out there is, hey, we'll buy your timeshare, but in exchange, we want you to buy a travel club membership. It's just going to cost you $10,000 to $12,000. You're going to have access to all these timeshare deals and vacation deals, and that's the way to go. And again, do you really want to pay another $10,000 to $12,000, $6,000? I'm going to tell you that the deals on those websites you probably could get just going to Airbnb, Expedia, some of these other traditional sites. If they really think there's those deals, they're going to allow you to see those deals before you even purchase their membership. So again, transparency is super important when you're deciding to buy into any of these vacation clubs. Making sure that they really are giving you a discount, and it's not just you going in October or April when it's cold and rainy, and you're actually getting prime time for the resorts that you want to go to when you can go to them. So I want to talk about the inheritance pitch because my in-laws had a timeshare. They were so excited about passing this down to us as their children. And that's really what sold them on the timeshare. And my father-in-law kept on buying weeks of timeshares so each child could have a week. And that ether just sold him this idea of us all coming together every year for a vacation. And I will tell you, we had some wonderful family vacations at their timeshare throughout the years. But I think the really important question, if you own a timeshare and you're having this vision of passing it down to your children, is you should have a conversation with your children. Do you want it? My father-in-law never had that conversation with us. I think he probably wouldn't have spent that money if he actually sat down with us and had the conversation. Do we want this timeshare? And the other question that my father-in-law didn't ask, and I think it's super important to ask us, is can you afford it? Is this something that you can wrap into your budget? You really have to sit down at that family table and be willing to have that conversation. It's super important to know where your family's at. Because what my father-in-law didn't foresee is one of his children would be in Taiwan and the other child would buy a beach house in Oregon. And Alan and I have a timeshare on my other side of the family. So, it's just one of those questions you need to ask. So now, inheritance is pros and cons, right? So here's the discussion we can be having with our family, because we know that a lot of timeshares can be passed down. The pro is, hey, we already paid the initial buy-in, the mortgage. We've paid that huge fee, the $100,000 or $12,000 or whatever amount you had to pay to get your timeshare. Your child is not going to have to pay that, which is cool. They're not going to have that mortgage, but they are going to have to pay for those assessment fees and the monthly fees. So, and if your child can afford it, that could be really reasonable. Maybe they're excited about that. They love to travel. They love the locations of your timeshare. They're in that time of life where they can take it on. They're financially stable. This could be a great thing for them. So there are some pros to this, but there's a lot of cons to it too, which really need to be taken into consideration. One is when you die, there's going to be an estate tax if the value of your estate is over a certain amount of money. So this timeshare is going to add value to that estate, and maybe it's going to tip you over to the point where your children are going to have to pay more taxes on your estate, and they may not have had to pay that if your timeshare was sold before you died. So there could be some possible tax implications that you want to really think about in your estate, and whether or not your children want that hassle being your maybe they're the executor of your estate, trying to figure out how to sell your club or timeshare. Maybe this would be a lot easier if you took care of this before you passed. The other question to think about is, when would my child take over my payments as I decline in health and I need more money for care? You're paying this $200 to $300 a month, or maybe even only $100 for your assessment fees, but suddenly you need senior home helpers, or you're going into a retirement home and you're still alive. So it hasn't passed down to your children yet you're not able to go enjoy your timeshare. And can your child suddenly take over those payments and use that while you're even still alive? So that's a question to have with your children. They might not be able to afford the rising maintenance fees. There's no interest in the location, the timeshare, or traveling. They can't afford to travel to the timeshare location. And then there's those years in your life when nobody can travel. Maybe it's health, a pregnancy, employment situation, maybe in the military and they're deployed. You really have to have these conversations thinking about the different decades of people's lives and what they have going, and if they can really keep affording that. So I hope that you'll have that discussion.
Well, you get a break. You get one break, Dene. I have one slide.
Oh, great. Okay.
So,
I'm turning it back over to Suzann.
Yeah, that was great information, Dene. Wow. I'm learning too, because I hadn't seen the inheritance slides yet. So great job. So how to prepare. So you are going to sell your timeshare. First off, you want to pay off your loan, find out what it's worth, make sure that, well, and hopefully you have your deed contract, your agreement, and any title insurance. Make sure that you pay your maintenance fees and taxes and get up to date. I have heard so many times over the years where there will be individuals that own timeshares and they'll hire a company actually, and the company will say, oh, we'll take care of everything. Don't pay your maintenance fees. No, please pay your maintenance fees, because that you want to make sure those are caught up and paid for, so you don't get so you don't have to take care of that in the end and they get behind. So many stories behind that. Know whether or not your timeshare is legally classified as real estate or personal property, as this will make a difference in how it's conveyed to the new owner. Make sure you check with your owners association or resort manager to determine if there's any documentation they need in order to complete the sale. Now, I don't know if you want to add anything to any of that, Dene, but just these are some really good tips that you want to make sure that you look at also. And I know Dene is going to talk a little bit about the value piece coming up. So take it away again, Dene.
All right. So how do we determine that value for our timeshare and what it's worth? Because that's going to help you figure out which way you want to go, right? Obviously, the more value your timeshare has, the less you want to give away some of these processes. So take a look on eBay, Google, Craigslist, timeshare user groups. Look at those online listing resale companies specializing in timeshare resales, such as Red Week. Look at a realtor that's specializing in timeshare sales. What are they saying your timeshare is worth? And I will say the value is going to be determined by the average asking price of similar timeshares being advertised for sale and rent at your particular resort. And values can vary based on resort location, resort brand, season, unit size, and more. So do that homework if you can before you even get started. So at least you're not thinking that, oh, my timeshare should be worth $100,000 and it's only worth $1,000. You just need to get into that right mindset of what it's going to be worth when you sell it.
And here's another Suzann slide.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what if I still owe on my timeshare? Okay. Number one, we already talked about this a little bit. Make sure that you pay off the loan. That is really important. Consider refinancing your loan. Refinance your home mortgage, your home equity loan. If it's a personal consumer loan, rather than a mortgage type loan where the lender takes a security interest in your timeshare, you can probably sell your timeshare, but you still need to pay the loan off. So the key here, pay loan off is the key tip here. You can also rent out your timeshare week and continue to pay down the loan until you can afford to sell it. I think that's a helpful tip too.
Yeah, there's sometimes a lot of value in that, in renting out your timeshare week. And then that helps you pay down that loan. So then you can pay it off.
Great.
Yeah. All right.
You're next.
Okay, so you found a buyer, or maybe you don't have a buyer, but here's some things you can do. You can work with a real estate professional or timeshare sales company taking care of the handling of the closing. You want to make sure that you do this paperwork right. And although you can do this yourself, it can be a little bit complicated. So maybe you do want to hire a professional. Definitely hire a closing service that specializes in timeshare transfers if you're doing this yourself, just to make sure this title gets transferred appropriately. And if you don't want to hire a closing company, maybe you just want to engage an attorney specializing in real estate to help transfer that timeshare with the right agreement, getting that to the right title company and getting that transferred. So that is that. Now, since we're all advocates, we are consumers, we elect our government officials, we are consumers of the industry. I just wanted to spend some time talking about how can these timeshare companies be better? How can we urge them to make this better, an easier process? And my first thing is I really feel like they need to refrain from selling to people who cannot afford it. There needs to be some lending standards. They need to disclose their interest rates, numbers of years until payoff, and potential maintenance fee increases in an easy to understand format. All of this should be very transparent in the sales process. They shouldn't be so much in the ether with people that they're not understanding what this lifetime commitment that they're making. Also developing an ethical sales presentation standard, address the reports of high pressure and deceptive sale practices, delivering honest and accurate sales pitches, not detaining the consumers past the scheduled time or expressing a false sense of emergency to act immediately. You should be able to go to that breakfast for an hour and leave. I mean, sometimes I've been held hostage for like 2 to 3 hours. Finally, I say, I'm an investigator with the BBB, let me out. And they drop their pen and it's done. But it's just so goes on and you're wasting precious vacation time. Don't mislead your consumers about the timeshare inheritance piece, because like I've talked about, it is a wonderful family experience. But again, there's pros and cons to your children inheriting that timeshare. And do not describe it as an investment opportunity. Yes, you're investing in family time and togetherness, but you're not going to see a return of investment financially. My other thing is, how can this industry be better, is eliminate company mediation. Do not require consumers to mediate through the company's internal program should a dispute arise. Instead, you should be able to use a neutral third-party mediation source, such as the Better Business Bureau or the American Arbitration Association, where you actually get a fair mediation. I feel like they should extend the right of recession, especially for seniors. Sometimes you only get 3 days to change your mind. I feel like this should be longer. You need to come home from that vacation and realize what you purchased. Also, all consumers should receive pertinent information, such as access. This is more for travel clubs, but you should be able to access the website, the passwords at the point of purchase, so you can check out potential savings, the actual values of the timeshares on the resale market. So if you do decide to cancel, you can take advantage of that recession period. And allow your benefits, such as status, to be transferred through third-party timeshares. What people don't realize is if you do buy a timeshare through these third parties in the resale market, you don't get the benefits of being a part of like the Diamond Club or having priority in reservations, things like that. And I feel like some of those things should be sold along with your timeshare. Also encouraging more timeshares to make those deed back programs and make them more accessible for people who really need to get rid of their timeshare quickly. And so they can do that. And our closing tips, is that back to you, Suzann? Or is that me?
Well, it is you, but
okay, I'll keep talking.
Yeah.
Make sure you research that company at bbb.org. We have a scam tracker you can search to see if it's a scam. Call your local attorney general's office. Give it a Google. I always type the name of the company and the word scam or reviews and see if anything else pops up. Again, check with that real estate or escrow company license with the state. And you can always call us. We do have a support staff answering the phone. I know AARP does too, so you could always call them and talk with them if it's a scam. So that's another option. And as we close, we say, where will your next vacation take you? We love vacations. We love travel. We're not anti timeshares altogether, but we really want people to understand the commitment and what they're getting into and their options for getting out. So thank you very much. And now we'll look at the chat at questions. I think Suzann can.
Yeah, there are some
pull up our
questions and I couldn't answer all of them, but
okay.
Well, actually, I'll just say them, and you're probably going to be able to answer them because you're just so good at this. What was the name of the online forum to list your timeshare?
Oh, there are a few, but the one that I'm probably most familiar with is redweek.com.
Yeah, I just looked that up. I wasn't sure if that was it. When I went to Google it, I'm like, I think she said Red Week.
Oh, Red Week. Sorry, it is Red Week. It is
Yeah,
Red Week. Sorry.
It is yeah,
yes,
it actually,
yes. Redweek.com.
When I Googled it, it came right up and it looks like a really great, easy website to use. And can we get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation?
That I think will be on YouTube. The PowerPoint itself, we do like to keep as sort of a proprietary thing, but this presentation is being recorded and will be available.
Thank you. Can you speak to the use of trusts for timeshare ownership and transfers to heirs?
I can't. I'm not an attorney. I do know that's possible to do. And again, if you do use a trust, I don't even know if I want to go there, but because I might be speaking out of turn. But you would definitely want to talk to your attorney and just find out what the tax implications are with the estate. And again, speaking with your children as to whether or not they want to receive that as a gift through the trust. So it just really depends. Can an heir refuse to inherit a timeshare? Yes, you can refuse to inherit the timeshare, but then the executor of the estate is going to have to sell that timeshare through the probate process after you pass.
I think that was, does anybody else have any other questions for us?
So I have a question. If you own your timeshare and you're just paying, of course, the maintenance fees, is it easier to sell because all you're really doing is, what if you just ask someone to take it from you and they start paying the maintenance fees? Can you transfer it like that?
Yes. Yeah. So you would just want to work with probably an attorney or a real estate agent to get that transferred into their name.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So basically it'd be like a quick claim deed sort of thing where you're selling it for $0. And you'd want to work with and you might be able to just work with resort as well. They may have documentation to do something like that.
When they tell you you can only do that with a family member, is that an issue? Because if, you know, a lot of those contracts say you can will it, you can gift it and all that, but it has to be a family member. But if you're really just looking to get rid of it, and you want someone to pay the maintenance, you know,
Well,
just so you can get rid of that monthly maintenance, does that have to be a family member, or can you just, can it be anyone?
Well, I think if you're selling it, you could probably just sell it for $1. I don't think they're limiting you on what you can sell it for.
Okay.
So you, unless your contract prevents you from reselling it, I guess that would be a different story.
Okay, got to read the fine print.
You got to read the fine print, but I would feel like that would be illegal to prevent someone from selling their timeshare. We would definitely want to look at that. I do know, like, my mom owns like a timeshare, but it's more of a travel club kind of thing where she only pays if she goes. She just passed away, so I'm dealing with this as her executor. But her contract says once you pass away, it just goes away. There's no selling it. There's no passing it down. It's just the contract's now void. You're no longer an owner. No one else can use it. So you might be in that. There are those situations out there like that.
Okay, thanks for the information. I'll investigate.
Yeah, it's really important to pull out that agreement and read it. Any other questions?
Get into that.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Mostly time on these timeshares, there's no deed. You have your original contract, but there's no deed to it. And you said something about the annual assessment. Where do you get that?
There's no deed. So do you own like points?
Yes.
Is yours? Oh, okay. So, and do you still have a loan on buying those points? No. So you would be just selling your points essentially instead of an actual property, which is easier to sell actually than someone who has a deeded property. So it's a little bit different as far as the transfer of it, because you're not transferring like a deeded property, you're transferring your membership, your points to somebody else. But they should know, depending on your club, sometimes people with point values have certain benefits the more points they own. And a lot of times when you resell those points, the club doesn't give the new owner those special benefits that you may have received because you purchased up a level in your own timeshare point system. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's another thing to really understand is, do I own property or do I own points? That would be something to look into. A lot of the older timeshares from the 70s were properties, actual units, where a lot of the newer deals, like Worldmark would be a good example, you were buying points, I think. Any other questions? Oh, some points are deeded and some are right to use. Good point, Roger. Yeah, so again, you'll want to look, what do I really own? Thank you for sharing that. Everything's different.
Any other questions? If not, we will go ahead and say thank you to Dene and Suzann for this information on timeshares. And everybody sign up for more classes if you'd like. And we hope, we're doing this during COVID time, and we hope eventually we'll get in-person classes. But it's been nice to have this because we're getting people from lots of places. And, obviously Dene and Suzann would not be able to present this if we were in person. So I think in the future, we'll probably do a hybrid of both in-person and online classes. So thank you, ladies, and everybody have a great day.
Yep. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.